Yeah.
But you're right. It takes money.
Yeah, partner with the sports person at PPH.
In arenas over in city sports and stuff like that. Yeah, basketball.
Yeah, I wish the NCAA would get. Yeah, they are.
For sure. Okay. We're recording. Hang on here just a second. Okay, we're call to order this city council regular business meeting for Thursday, September 5th, 2024. It is 6 p.m. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Brown, Cool,
Here.
Livingston. Here. Meineke.
Here.
Mayor Phillips.
I'm here as well. We do have a quorum, so we will go on. Item number 2 is a pledge of allegiance. Would you please rise and say the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 3 is approval of the agenda. We're going to move consent agenda item Q to the regular agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the other consent agenda items to the regular agenda?
Motion.
Thank you. Okay, motion to approve the amended agenda by Livingston, seconded by Meineke. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item 4 is welcome of guests and public comment. Thank you for being here tonight. We'll go ahead and open up the dais for anybody who wants to address council and myself for non-agenda items. We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. We can't take action on these tonight since they aren't on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. So anybody like to address council? Hearing none, we will move on. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Let's see, we have expenditures, tax abatements. We have the August 15th, 2024 minutes for the regular city council meeting. We have the August 22nd, 2024 minutes of the special city council meeting. We have a special event application for Norwalk Music Fest at City Park, September 14th, 2024 from 3 to 10 p.m. We have a new 5-day special class C retail alcohol license for Thirsty Pigs for the Norwalk Music Fest event at 907 North Avenue. We have a renewal class C retail alcohol license for Outskirts at 8384 South Aurilla Road. We have a new 5-day special class C retail alcohol license for Getting Slushed South of 35 LLC. That's for the Norwalk Music Fest event at 907 North Avenue. We have a resolution approving engineering services for the Cherry Parkway widening project. Have resolution approving agreement with Ziegler Power Systems, resolution approving the disposal of equipment, resolution approving the upfit of a used Ford Explorer for the police department. Have an approval of emergency services for storm damage cleanup. A resolution appointing Brent Henders to the Norwalk Planning and Zoning Commission. A resolution approving the promissory note and mortgage and contract for the Norwalk Rehabilitation Assistance Program project at 2219 Shading Lane Drive. A resolution to approve pay estimate number 2 to MMC Contractors Iowa Incorporated for the Public Safety HVAC project. And we have correspondence. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Baker. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston, Meineke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 5Q, resolution approving performance pay increase to the library circulation supervisor.
I just thought it was worthy of more than a consent agenda because kudos to Ms. Olson for getting her master's.
All right,
That's all.
that's all? Okay. So would you approve it then?
I would
Or
approve it.
Would
I
you
would-
make a motion to approve? it?
I will make a motion to.
Awesome. Anybody want a second?
I'll second that.
All right.
That was pretty
So-
nice. That's a nice positive reason.
Agreed.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. Any public comment? Or comment by Jim?
I am very appreciative of that fact because we're very proud of her too. She started working for us about 3 years ago, loves her job, decided she wanted to stay in libraries forever and ever. So she earned her master's degree and we're glad she's with us.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I'll pass
All right.
that on to her.
All right, Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6 is old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is discussion and possible action regarding the Ridge at Echo Valley Assessment Project. So we're having some difficulty getting the easements for the repaving of Blue Stem Road and Prairie States Drive. So this conversation is about easements. You have provided several options, all of which will result in added costs for all Norwalk taxpayers, since the majority of the project's cost comes from the rest of Norwalk's taxpayers. Since this is about easements, I'm gonna skip some of my comments. And if we, depending on the option that we choose, we may have a closed session tonight, talk about what's going on. The options that are available are to provide additional compensation for the easements. We can re-engineer the project and have staged construction, which would not require easements. And there's several variations of that. We re-engineer the project to not allow vehicle access, thus eliminating the need for access road in most of the easements, but there's a problem with that in regards to emergency services. We could stop the project at this time and reevaluate the assessment policy. We'd stop the project and reevaluate the project priority. Or we can continue with the project as proposed, and that would include legal action to acquire the easements that we need through condemnation. Wayne, what do you got?
I'll just start off by saying Jeff Rouse with WHKS is here tonight. He's the engineer on the project. We're trying to acquire 35 easements. We've gotten 13 signed easements returned back to us. We may get 1 or 2 more. There's a few people considering yet the current offer. We're not likely to get 35 with what's out there right now. So that's why it's back here on the agenda for council discussion.
Okay. Any discussion, questions from council?
I would like to, I think that there is a lot of tension and frustration in this room for sure regarding the city and the neighborhood versus the neighborhood versus me. This has been not a good situation, and I would like to explain a little of that, I think.
Okay.
I believe that the passion level has increased dramatically. That's where you get the true workings of this. They feel like this is an injustice. The street in front of my house was completely failed, dropped 9 inches in 2 weeks, and was rebuilt. That was done 2 years before I got on council. That puts it at 15. The street was only built in 2005. It's 10 years old. The streets failed in 10 years. The problem is we're trying to treat it just like the streets in Lakewood. The streets in Lakewood were not approved by Norwalk, not inspected by Norwalk, not built to Norwalk standards, but yet they still lasted 15.5 years. Some people say that it's due to the watering. The problem is Ridge East is now 10 years old. They watered just as much or more than we did, and they aren't having any problem. Their streets are brand new. The Estates is the exact same thing. They're brand new. The problem is asphalt is not structural, concrete is. That's why it's working, because also the design is bad. The center of the street is asphalt, the curb, they separate. You can see during a rain or anything, the water comes right off of the yard over the storm sewer, not even going down the storm sewer, and going right in between the crack between the asphalt and the concrete. All of these are reasons why it's failing. Because of that, All this was a super expensive experiment with asphalt for the city. That's all this was. What I want to do is to move forward.
Move forward.
I want to move forward. I think this is, if we're at 13 and 14%, usually is what the assessments make up. I think at least 5 to 8% of that is heavier work for the engineers to try to do this. Because they have to do all the linear feet. I've talked to Wayne a little bit about this. It definitely makes work. I think if for this deal, it is completely blown up. Again, it's just a very expensive experiment. I think this is a good opportunity when we have such a disparity over what was done in Lakewood versus now to end this whole assessment practice. I think I don't want any other neighborhood in this town to go through it. I don't want Wayne to ever have to go through it. I don't want to have to ever go through it. This has been a fiasco, and it's not due to any of our faults. This was done. Why have we never done asphalt again?
We have.
We have, so.
No, we
You look
have,
at,
we have
look
not.
at Lakewood Drive, look at
Anyway.
Wakanda Drive, same exact thing.
Right, well, they don't have shale as much up there.
So
evidently.
if, I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I want to get everyone back on the same page, and I think this is a good cutoff. I don't want these assessments to ever go forward. And if we end up having to do something here, then we get into discussions on easement amounts. How were they decided? Were they the same as Lakewood? Are they the same? You know, I have no idea. That's what I'm trying to avoid is
So-
let's just end this.
So we have had this discussion.
Not
We,
really.
just a minute.
That's
We have debated and debated, and we have voted on whether or not we are going forward with this project. My understanding of the agenda item is what are doing about the easements, not are we revisiting whether or not we are going forward, not revisiting the whole debate again. So I'm asking you, Mr. Mayor, to do what the agenda item is, to address the issue of the easement and not to relitigate the issue of how the assessments came to be, whether or not the assessment should continue, and what we're doing about the assessments. That's not on the agenda. That's not what today's discussion is.
I think more information has come to mind that this is a completely different situation than what was done in Lakewood.
It's not what the agenda is about.
I understand that, but I think the new information has made it more clear that we should have looked at it better. I didn't like the idea of assessments then. I went along with it because you agreed with it,
I understand
and
that.
I did vote for
I
it.
understand that. My position hasn't changed.
I appreciate
I'm
that.
saying that we had a vote. This is not what the agenda item is tonight.
It actually is on the, one of our stop the project and reevaluate the assessment policy. It is included. That's one of our alternatives.
That is one of the alternatives. I don't like that alternative. But because that would mean it seems a disservice to the rest of the Norwalk taxpayers who have gone through the assessment project to get your street done to all of a sudden change that assessment policy midstream.
Except for the fact that they are so disproportionate. One is a 55-year street, the other one's a 55-year street, ours is a 10-year street.
20.
No,
you
it's
said- you
20
said it
degree, 20 years right now. I said the street in front of my house was completely redone. It had dropped 8 inches.
Okay.
And that was 2 years before I got on council. I got on council in 17. Do the math, it started in 5 all the way to 2015. 10 years, it completely collapsed. The curbs went up. It
Okay.
completely collapsed at 10 years.
So I don't know what they did as far as the mitigation for that 10 years ago.
It's been failing steadily for the last 10 years.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Although Brian, I got a counter argument for you.
Okay,
We just approved that two lots that we put together out in Timber,
Yes.
or whatever it's out there, out west.
Timberview.
It was what, a couple years old at most.
Mhm.
And it failed. And they worked it out so the developer came back and fixed it. But that
Correct.
was a brand new street. That failed. They came back and they made a hole. I don't think the city put any money into it. I don't believe.
Not for that one. No.
So, and it failed in 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, ours was just out of warranty. It's your 100-year-old or 100-day-old television set with a 90-day.
So I,
But the developer made a hole.
Well, no,
Or
Mayor,
in their contract.
I'm probably not inclined to change policy, right?
Okay.
I'm not inclined to do that, because in law enforcement, which is my background, you do your best to treat everybody exactly the same. Okay. They may go through the stop sign at a different speed, right? But they still went through the stop sign. But in this case, we've got a failing road. We've got property owners adjacent to the failing road. Every place we go in town, we treat people the same. It doesn't matter what their evaluations are. What they're doing is paying for the cost of concrete, however long their curb is. And the evaluations don't have anything to do, they could be evaluated for $1 and it wouldn't matter. Okay. So I will try to listen and be sympathetic. But I just want you to know where I'm coming from. That I don't think it would necessarily be perceived as fair if we vary a rule from one part of town to another part of town,
Do
right?
you think that's actually what's happening? We're just
I-
varying a
I think it very well could be.
10 years versus a 50-year road. I don't know.
Well, we did asphalt down there. The base was different. probably.
Something obviously is different.
Yeah,
Otherwise
my
you're gonna have a
bet
mess.
is it was the base, but.
My
what do I-
entire point is that if we do something silly. And then do we just keep doing that over and over again because that's the way we've always done it? No, we're smarter now. We are going to do it differently. That is my impression. This, we did it in the past. We've done a lot of things throughout our history that weren't very smart. Now we do things on a case by case basis. Exactly. Once in 67, I made a mistake.
okay. So let's go back and talk about some of the merits of the options that are available to us. That are in the thing, in the agenda statement. So I would say number 3 would be out. Because we want to be able to provide a path for an ambulance or a fire truck or a police car to get back into the area. Do you agree?
I agree.
So we could re-engineer the project to have staged construction, which would not require easements. That we could possibly do 1 lane at a time, which seems difficult and it would increase costs exorbitantly, I would think. Would that be true?
Yeah, we'd have to start with just having the engineers run a scenario to see if they can achieve that. If you're changing the road profile too much from current to the proposed, it may not be feasible. But it's an option we could explore. It's doing 1 lane at a time, I can tell you it probably is gonna double the length of the project, which could be frustrating and
But again,
Which significantly increases the cost, not only to the
Significant.
homeowners, but to the city and everybody else who's not using
Yeah.
these streets.
Right.
Correct.
Can we, after we're done with this topic, can we go back to number 3 for a second?
Sure. So I think number 2, because of the additional costs, would be out as well. Would you agree?
What's that?
Number 2 would be out as well because of additional costs. So I'm just trying to go through these options so we can get land on one. Unless somebody wants to make a motion for their preferred option.
That would probably not be the preferred option.
Okay.
Because it would increase expense and the duration We don't even know if we can pull that off.
Right. What's your additional comment on 3?
So we just redid Golden Valley or whatever that street was, right?
Yeah, it's wrapping up.
Okay, and so they completely just deconstructed that street, so it was not drivable, right? And the cars had to park on the end, at least for a period of time. There was no travel on that road. So is the difference between that area and this, the length of the road, and right, that area, right, on either side of that road, you could get access if you needed it. But in this area, right, there's no access on the other end. I'm not saying it very eloquently,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
that's the issue, right?
I think you had access, there's little squiggly lines that go, roads that go down to it as well. So you had access towards the middle as well.
On Golden Valley, we did acquire easements from property owners on the west side and did have an access road there.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify why it's not feasible here, but it was feasible on Golden Valley. I'm not arguing the
Thank you.
point. I
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify
Good point.
why it's the difference.
All right. Let's talk about providing additional compensations for the easements. I'm not sure that would even work if we had additional compensations for the easements, the assess,
Yeah,
as
we,
this is an assessed project. that-
at Golden Valley, we negotiated easements at 8% of the value of the land with those property owners. On past projects, I think on Beardsley, we did go higher, just due to the importance of the project and the number of, the traffic that goes through there, it was negotiated a little bit higher. There's maybe 2 or 3 easements only on that project. But yeah, Golden Valley was 8%.
How did we come up with the 1,500?
That was from a irrigation contractor quotes we have. We just asked for a generic quote. So that's been some of the heartburn from the feedback we've gotten. The goal wasn't to negotiate restoration on every property. The goal was just to have, because we don't want to get bills on every single property. Some people may do the work themselves. Some people may hire whoever to do the work. So some of the feedback has been, well, some properties are bigger and their assessments are bigger, their compensation for the damage should be variable as well. There does seem to be some confusion. The $1,500 payment we offered is for restoring the 5-foot easement area. It's not for the entire right of way. It's only for restoring the irrigation in the easement area. Irrigation in the right of way is the city's property. We don't pay to replace that or repair that. That's homeowners' burden to do that. Some people are getting quotes saying to restore my irrigation is a lot more than $1,500. It probably is. We're trying to compensate you for the portion of the irrigation in the easement area. But we reach out.
That's not unlike West Des Moines and all the others that we saw where it's everything in the easement, everything in the right of way is at your own.
That's correct.
Correct.
Well, if there was some kind of renegotiations involved, this whole thing would have to be put on hold until that was done. Because we'd have to look at that and see whether,
But I think we could change the easement compensation today and not have to restart the project or.
we just put a top limit on it.
Yeah.
If we decided, I mean, I think on that option, first of all, you have to consider, okay, if you increase the dollar amount of the compensation for the easement, are you gonna get the, is that the real underlying issue here? I mean, we could probably double the amount on the easement, I bet that, and I would think that there's probably some easements that still won't get signed. Because the underlying issue of not signing isn't necessarily whether they're getting $1,500 or whether they get $3,000 for the easement.
Right, according to the notes, there's
Yeah.
3 that made a counter offer and there's,
That's right.
right, 9 that are straight no's.
But we could, I mean, the project could go forward, assessments would stay in place. And certainly the council has the ability to direct negotiation of easements. The council has the ability to direct condemnation of easements for those that won't sign it. At that point in time, So what condemnation is you go in there and you condemn it and you have a third party come in and basically tell both sides of the part, you know, the city and the homeowner what the value of that property is, because there's no doubt the city has the right and has the ability to obtain those easements. The issue is the proper compensation for it. And people have the right to negotiate that compensation. If we can't negotiate it, they have a right to have, you know, a third party board, you know, that the county appoints, come and decide what that value is, and they would dictate, okay, this is what you pay to get that easement. So it's not a matter of will we get the easements or not, it's a matter of how much you pay for it and what process we use. You know. So that's the question there. I mean, so on that option, you're gonna have to say, okay, do we want to continue to go around that track? I think one of the thing is, you gotta assume that, you know, you're gonna have to condemn some of them. And if that's a non-starter for one of the council member, you know, for a majority of the council, then we probably don't take that route, or majority of the council says, oh no, we're willing to go as far as condemnation on this. Well, then that is, you know, that is a option.
That sounds expensive relative to this money we're talking about.
Well,
So maybe not to the. What we're offering, but.
there would be a lot of, I mean, there'd be a lot of work, you know, personnel wise and everything like that. There's a lot of easements there, but certainly, you know, council, like I said, they have the authority to go ahead and condemn if they want.
And can you explain exactly what you mean by condemn?
Well, condemnation, when there's a public improvement project like this, Iowa law says that this city has a right to obtain real estate for that purpose. I mean, there's certain limited rights that a governmental entity has to be able to obtain land from a private owner. And, you know, the biggest thing are like easements like this, or, you know, even if there's a public improvement project, like if there was a corner of a lot where we decided we wanted to have a police department or something, the council could decide to condemn that. In this case, condemnation is taking an interest in land. In this case, we're not taking complete fee ownership or complete ownership of the land. You would be taking a right to use that land, which in this case, it would be the easement. In this case, it'd be a temporary easement because you're condemning a temporary right to occupy that ground for moving in and out of the neighborhood during the construction process, but that still is taking of an interest in property. So the process, and if the council decides that it's in public interest, is the proper type of project, which it is, for condemnation, well, then the council has the right to do that condemnation. So then the process of that is you got to have good faith negotiation. So we would have to hire more formal appraisals of each piece of ground, and we get an appraiser saying, okay, this is what the value of this easement is here. And then we would have to have good faith negotiations with each of the property owners, where we would say, okay, this is the appraisal, this is how we've arrived at it. And at some point in time, we have to come to a final offer. And at that point in time, you make a decision, okay, can we come together, the property owner and the city, in obtaining that easement through negotiations? And if we decide, no, we're at an impasse and we've offered fair market value, well, then at that point in time, there's a condemnation board that you can go to. That's appointed by the county, and you can go through the process. There's a process where you have to ask the chief judge of the district to appoint this condemnation board, and it usually has a couple of realtors and professionals in real estate valuation, bankers, things like that. And then at that point in time, it's not as formal as a trial, but it's more of an informal setting where they can come and view the property. We give them our appraisals. Property owner has the right to submit appraisals and whatever information they want. And then that board decides what the value of a temporary easement is, a temporary use of the property. And then the city's forced to pay that. The city could pay costs if, for instance, the board decides that we didn't make a fair market value offer of it. And, you know, so if a public entity like the city lowballs them, they can't lowball them, because then, you know, expenses that are incurred by the property owner could also be ordered to be reimbursed by this, you know, by the city. So, and you have to have a fair negotiation, which we would. But, you know, it's a longer process.
But in order to complete the project as it's contemplated now, we would need to have those easements
Yeah, before we do anything else, we have to have those easements.
Right. So maybe it's a go or no go on the project. You know what I mean? If we decide we're not gonna push easements, then
Yeah, that,
maybe we just don't do anything.
Could you get closer to your microphone, please?
Sorry. And I have a little sign here too. It says, speak into the microphone.
yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the easements appear to be essential to be able to get this project done the way it's considered now, right? The concept as it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the question on easements then becomes a light switch decision, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And so we decide if the project is gonna go forward and these people are gonna get a new street, then we pretty much have to push the easements, right?
Yes.
Now, if they don't want a new street, it solves all of our problems. We just close it down, pack our bags and leave. Right?
Yes.
And no muss, no fuss for us because it doesn't go anywhere anyway. So I feel sorry for the people that live on that street. So I guess, you know, given all things are the same, I'm inclined to go ahead and push the easements and follow through with whatever we need to do, because we're gonna do fair market value anyway on these easements, and that's the way it's gonna end up. I think they need a new street. Do I need to say that in the microphone? I think they need a new street.
So are you saying you want to do number one and adjust the easement compensation?
Um,
Or,
yeah, I would probably do that. But it need to be something reasonable.
okay,
Well, it's difficult to just arbitrarily say we're gonna move it up a certain amount because, you know, if we say we're gonna. You can certainly give authority. We'll probably have to do that in closed session, and get opinions on the amount of money you want to pay before we go forward. But there's hoops we have to jump through for condemnation process. And really, you can't even evaluate your top dollar amount because you haven't hired an appraisal to appraise each one of the lots. So the next step.
We have to have an appraiser to come in to appraise everybody's lot.
Yeah, if you're gonna condemn it, yeah, we've got to pay an appraiser.
Oh, on the ones we're condemning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right.
I guess I'm willing to do that if it means they get a new street.
There's some people that just don't want a new street as well. I don't think it's the majority, but there's a few on the list. I think they're that way, right?
I think that's correct.
Which it's not a vote. It's a city decision. But,
Right.
Can I throw a wild one out there for you to contemplate? Would this be a time to take a look at making a private street? We get the money, we're gonna build a new street anyway.
I think that would be.
Are you trying to send me over the edge?
You don't like private streets? I forgot about that.
I would
Well, it's
want
not,
it to be a private
well, it's not
street.
really going anywhere.
That'd be
It goes in a
over.
circle. And most people, you're either
You
visiting.
wanna turn it over to them as is a private street?
No, no, no.
Spend
Fine with me.
3.6 million.
Oh, watch my hands.
Well, we're gonna, yeah, we got
Now it's
3.6 million,
$100,000.
and
Now it's $100,000 each assessment,
why is that?
because it's 3.6 million and we'd have to pay it ourselves.
Well, and you'd have to
No,
maintain
we're
it.
gonna spend the money anyway in the city.
I'm not gonna spend the money to fix it and then make it a private street.
All right,
No,
but I just threw that out as an idea, because then they could decide among themselves how to spend it. I'm not saying the whole 3.6 million, but I'm just saying it would
Yeah.
be an option.
I don't think I follow it.
Then you have your homeowner association. Well,
That's it.
if you wanna keep it
would-
asphalt, you don't need 3.6 million, do you?
We would give them a certain amount of money
No.
to be determined by the council.
Oh, I see. And
Turn
then
it
let
into-
them fix it
I don't think.
to how they wish as a private street. I'm tracking with
You know,
you.
I think,
Okay.
Because we have,
I-
we have
you know,
enough
it-
private streets.
could
anyway in
that-
town.
could that legally be accomplished? I think it could. Could the, but what the process would require would be everybody in this neighborhood to agree on something.
That's.
They'd all have to agree to it.
Well, that's why you have HOAs.
Yeah, I know, but
I
like I
don't
say, they would all have to agree to it. I don't think.
you know, you get that many people together with opinions and you're not gonna get. I think you got some
Think
people
there
that are
might
willing
be-
to have strong opinions in this neighborhood.
Might be danger of torches and bonfires and stuff.
And then you
up
have to get
on
the
ridge.
mortgage companies involved with it, and,
Oh,
Mayor,
I just threw it out there.
but it's,
That's all.
I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it would be. There'd be a lot of tentacles there that we'd have to wrap up to get it done.
Wayne,
if we were to try to negotiate easements, I think Brian said earlier, and I think that the heart of the issue is the assessments, the property assessments. If we were to renegotiate easements, I'm confident the fair market value is not gonna move the needle for people that are saying no right now. So if we try to renegotiate the easements, it's gonna have to go down the path of condemnation. If we wanna, I just don't think renegotiating is gonna move enough people to accept the property assessment, sign the easement.
Okay.
A good project, our best project we've ever done was a nightmare. They're all bad, they're all tough, they're burdensome. To condemn a property and then for us to try to execute a project in there is just. It's a volatile situation, there's a lot of emotion, it would be tough to pull off the project when we've condemned. Not impossible, but as you all know, who have been through a project, contractors will block your driveway, they'll drive on your lawn. Your life is dusty, dirty, noisy for a whole year. And then if they're angry already, it's just something to be aware of.
thank you. So. Let's get this one, let's get option 6. Let's talk about that one real quick. Option 6 is proceed as we are and acquire the easements through condemnation. Does anybody want to talk about that?
Sounds like it's a nightmare.
I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think, I would not want to go through that.
But how else do you finish the street?
Good question.
Are you?
How do you get the street done if you don't go through condemnation? Because we're gonna have to go through condemnation.
If you. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation there. I think right now, it's pretty clear with some of the property owners here that. Like Wayne said, the issue is not the amount they're receiving for a temporary easement. It's more, they'll use the temporary easements as leverage because they don't like the idea that. They're contributing to, they're being assessed money on property. On the project, so. But I think ultimately, like, it is a light switch thing. If the council's not willing to condemn, I think that's where it's gonna go. And then you gotta decide, okay, ramification of condemnation. We've condemned an easement out in the country. We condemned major thoroughfares, some easements there. I'm not aware of the city ever condemning in the residential neighborhoods. There's certainly is a flashpoint when you're forcing taking in property interests of a private property owner. But legally they can do it. That's, like Wayne said, once you light that flame even more. How's the construction gonna proceed even if you do that with these?
I don't want to do that. It has to be voluntary.
So but it's not gonna be voluntary. So then what do we do? Right? I mean, I see things,
So we're down to option 4 and 5 then. We're down to 2 options. Both
well,
of those to stop the project.
right, yes. So my position is not gonna change. I am not going to agree. I'm one of 5.
Yep.
But I am not going to agree that we reevaluate the assessment policy. So for me, we either stop the project or we go forward and do condemnation. I am one of 5. So
Strong-
maybe
strong that
somebody
light
can
switch
convince
thing.
everybody else. But I'm not going to agree that we reevaluate the assessment policy.
What's everybody else think?
I'm with Jackie because we just did I know it's the 50-year road versus the 25-year road, but tenure.
Both.
And, but at the same time, you know, if you moved on to Golden Valley last year, I don't care if it's 50 years. I just moved there and just got assessed. I don't, you know, I'm not going to buy the 50-year argument with that road. And I thought they were okay. They were all okay, except one of them I knew. I said, hey, what do you think about that assessment? But you smiling right before I said that. The smile quickly went away. And so, you know, they just, you know, they accepted it. And not saying it's right, but I can't hardly imagine changing the policy now. After, I don't even know if they've been assessed that assessment yet, but the project's done and they're going to be. That doesn't seem right either from that standpoint.
I agree. That would be unfair. I would totally agree, but at some point we gotta quit hitting our head against the wall. It's a bad policy, and to continue in a bad policy, all right, that's what we wanna do. Fine.
So then it becomes a question of whether we continue the street project. Right.
Well, do you want that? I think it's coming down to two options. You want to stop the project and reevaluate the assessment policy, or do you want to stop the project altogether? And reprioritize it. It'll get done someday.
Yeah,
When the costs are higher.
right.
And I would note, we had this option. We voted on this option. This option was presented to us previously. We voted on this option previously.
Yeah, it's up against.
I understand.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll entertain a motion at any time. For one of the six options. I'm hearing that two of us, two of y'all want option number 5.
And I definitely wanted a motion to reassess the assessment.
And you want number 4. Yes,
Correct.
so we got one.
So I guess I just make it clear, okay, if we pick number 4, it's still stopping the project at this point.
Everything is stopping the
Yeah.
project. We don't have easements. It's stopped.
It stopped.
Exactly.
So,
It's done.
so to restart it, even with a different assessment, we're basically back to step 1 to.
And tons of expense for the city.
Yep.
Tons of expense. We are so blown over our 14% savings. Assessment. That's my entire point. I cannot get through. It is what it is. I think we need to quit this going forward. Make this the very last, at least that is a promise. This will be the very last assessment. Cause it's.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there. We will definitely talk to the project and start it.
I don't see how it's gonna get done without easements, seriously.
It's not.
I don't either.
So it really doesn't matter to me whether it's 4. Whatever you want.
I think it needs to be done. So I don't really have an answer. I don't know how to.
Make a motion for option number 5.
That's not the motion I would make. I don't have a motion to make. My position is we are exactly where we put ourselves. I don't know. I don't have an answer on how to move forward on this.
Well, option number 5 says we don't move forward.
What does no action do?
Project stops.
It would still stop anyway.
We have 20, what's outstanding, 16? easement, is that what we're missing?
23.
What, we got 13 in?
23 out of 35.
Pretty well. Yeah, it's over.
Okay, so with no motion. I haven't heard one. I'll entertain one for a couple more seconds.
The lack of a motion, what is the option? It
I
just
mean, I understand,
continues going the way it is.
No, the
Right.
Project dies.
no, right? If it continues going the way it is, right? It doesn't terminate it. It continues us spinning our feet, but hope springs eternal, and maybe the remaining 23 say it's either gonna stop or we're gonna agree with the easements, so we're gonna agree with the easements. I don't know. If we vote number 4 or 5, it stops. Even if everybody says, okay, we're gonna sign the easements, it's done. If we take no action, there's still an opportunity for people to sign the easements.
But then we cannot. Then we cannot reallocate those funds to other projects,
Right.
which is what would be ideal.
Fair point.
Well, I guess were you still entertain a motion?
Yes.
Okay, so how about, let's see, let's go down and look at 1.5. Okay, so I would motion 5.
Okay,
We'll stop the project, reevaluate it, and reallocate the funding so we can work on some other streets.
all right. Anybody want to second it?
Second.
Thank you. This will be interesting. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
One of them. No.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
No,
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, motion fails. What would you suggest we do next?
Make a different motion. I mean,
Good point.
If we walk away from here without any decisions made, well, then it'll just be treading water. I think staff's told you that we're at an impasse on easements. I don't think it's worthwhile paying engineers any further to, bang their head against the wall trying to get easements. So I think the council. So I guess if you don't vote on it, money's not allocated elsewhere, and we is treading water, but probably staff's not gonna proceed with much, working on it anymore. You could make a different motion, such as, okay, let's.
Could I move it to table it till we have a full complement of council?
Yes.
I would make that motion.
All right. So motion to table until we have. Motion to table until we have a full until we have all council members here.
officially. If it's already been done.
Well, if we can't, I don't know.
Well, we probably should. I don't know that anything's gonna make it better. I can't even think of anything to make it better, except 23 people pull your heads out of your rear ends and turn in the easements. That would be an option, but I can't do that, and I can't say that out loud. So
I think
You can't. You shouldn't do that.
I shouldn't say that out loud.
No.
But I think practically by not voting to stop the project, if we want to make a decision, it's, I'll echo what Councilmember Cool said. I mean, if we don't want to stop it, well, then we got to vote for condemnation if we really want to complete it. Unless we just are okay with it sitting, treading water for a little while.
But we do have other projects. That we can't sit on this one waiting for it to resolve.
So here's. Right, if I can't move to table it, fair enough, but if I can move to table it. I would like to for this reason, because. Again, hope springs eternal. And maybe after we've had this conversation, maybe there is some further consideration. Maybe Jason's here, right? We're 2-2. Maybe Jason's here and he votes, breaks the tie, and we actually move.
Or maybe some people do start turning.
Yeah.
Just for that.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking to table.
That makes sense.
I think that would be prudent to have everybody here to make a decision.
All right. So,
I'll second that motion.
good deal. So I got a motion by Livingston and a second by Cool to table until we have all five council members here. Lindsay, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes,
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries.
put that can a little further down the road.
Uh-huh.
True.
All right. Item 6B. I'll wait. Couple minutes. All right. Item 6B is public hearing regarding an amendment to the Norwalk Urban Revitalization Plans, Fifth Amendment to the plan to eliminate all future residential tax abatement benefits for new projects applied for after December 31st, 2024. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:51 PM. So I think our time of using residential tax abatement to spur growth is over. That, along with recent legislative changes, has moved us to eliminate residential tax abatement. Look,
Well said. I think that's a good summary. I don't know if there's any other questions for me.
I think the only question that might be out there is whether or not, because remembering back, this was put in, I think, for commercial development. Because they felt we needed rooftops to spur commercial. And our competition in the other cities in the area had abatement. So I guess the only question I would have is whether or not it's still essential or helpful for commercial development. That's the only question I'd have. Seems like we're gonna get houses anyway.
I think you're right. And I think staff has checked with surrounding communities or other metro communities. They no longer have abatement.
Just data wise to add with that, we've always been one of the top couple metro communities, housing unit growth wise. After you remove Ankeny, because they always like triple everyone, but those other communities don't have abatement. We do. We're sitting right there with them, so I don't think that it's going to impact us that much.
I think we've gotten the word out about Norwalk. And
You think so?
yeah, so if removing the tax abatement actually slows us down a little bit, I'm okay with that. So. Yeah,
Say,
I did. Okay, Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments?
We have not.
Okay, any public comment?
Mayor, I will add one thing, because I believe there's somebody in the room that has talked about a multifamily project. And I just want him to know that this abatement did not apply to multifamily in the past. So this has no bearing or difference on multifamily housing.
Multifamily is not residential. According to the state, that's according to the Iowa legislature.
And what we're contemplating is applying this to projects that haven't even been started.
Yep. All right, we'll close the public hearing at 6:54 PM. Item 6C is resolution adopting amendment number 5 to the plan for the Norwalk Urban Revitalization Area. So we just had a public hearing on this item. This resolution is going to phase out and eliminate residential property tax abatement. Luke, anything else to add? Oh, all right. Any discussion or comments from council? Any public comment? Give you a second chance. I get a motion to approve the resolution. Okay, so I got a motion by Cool, seconded by Meineke, any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6D is public hearing regarding a zoning amendment to change 1326 Sunset Drive from C2 Community Commercial to infill plan unit development with C2 uses. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:55 PM. This is for the vet clinic, I believe. Luke?
Correct. Let me get my. I haven't pulled up, apologize for that. Where did it go? Too many tabs.
And they're done that.
There we go. So this item is for an IPUD to allow for construction of a new vet center on the same parcel that the current pet vet clinic is located on 1326 Sunset Drive. If you scroll to the very last page of that site plan that's submitted with the PUD documents, you can see the kind of footprint of that current building. And what they're essentially wanting to do is build the new building behind that to the east, as shown earlier in the site plans. You can see what the new building would look like in new parking. But given that they operate out of that location, they don't want to shut down during construction. They would like to be able to continue to operate in the current building, construct their new building to the east, move into the new building, open that up, and then demo this front building and do the new parking, and then another addition onto the building on the north side towards Highway 28 would get added after the demo as well. So this is a good example of how our IPUD ordinance lets us be a little creative to let something like this happen. Typically, we wouldn't be able to do that. So that's what it's all about. Happy to answer questions.
Lindsay, we received any oral or written comments?
We have not.
Any other public comment on this? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:57 PM. Item 6E is first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning 1326 Sunset Drive from C2 community commercial to infill plan unit development with C2 uses. So we just had a public hearing on this item. Luke, you got anything to add?
Nothing.
Any discussion, comments, questions from council? Any public comment? I get a motion to approve first reading.
Motion.
Okay. Motion by Livingston, seconded by Meineke. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6F is postponed to a future date. Item 6G is public hearing regarding a comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use of 3089 North Avenue from future park to future commercial. So we'll open up public hearing at 6:58 PM. Council initiated a comprehensive plan amendment for the old Warrior Run Clubhouse. It's gone through planning and zoning. Luke, what do you got?
Yep, so this is the first step in rezoning and then splitting off 3089 North Avenue, the Warrior Run Clubhouse, to allow a user to purchase it and do a renovation and use it. First step here is to update our comprehensive plan so we can do the zoning accordingly. Our comprehensive plan identified the then active Warrior Run golf course as parkland. That's kind of how we identify any of those recreational things in the comp plan. So this would simply change that to commercial to allow the clubhouse to be a commercial building.
Okay, Lindsay, we received any oral or written comments?
We have not.
Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing at 6:59 PM. Item 6H is a first reading of an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by changing land at 3089 North Avenue from future park to future commercial. We just had a public hearing on this item. Luke, do you have anything to add?
No, sir.
Questions, discussion, or?
The only
comments?
question I'd have, Mayor, is we've got the monument that's up there, the rock and the monuments. And so the parking area that's up there by it, if we're changing that over, that'll be sold away, I take it. Well, my question is there anything in the agreement that would allow the public to be able to access that for the purpose of that monument? That Veterans Park is right there.
So and we'll look at it a little closer on item M, with the final plat. But the monument sign sits outside of the area that is, going to be the new parcel for the clubhouse.
Right.
And then there is an existing, and I don't know the details of it. Perhaps Jim or Tim does, but there's a monument sign easement that sits over top of the driveway, the kind of southern parking.
Okay, so we have
And-
we have an access
Yep.
easement in
Yep.
there.
And so I would assume that talks about it being public access, public parking for the monument.
Okay,
And then obviously the monument's presence being there as well. I can't say that definitively because I've not read the easement.
If I recall, and it's been years since I've seen this easement, but it was a public easement, but keep in mind, none of that is public ground. So there was an easement that was formulated that allows the public to go ingress and egress to get to the rock, but the city doesn't own the rock. That's a private thing. And the city doesn't own the easement, but there's an easement on private ground that says, if I remember right, it grants it to the public for access to the rock. It probably doesn't address maintenance on the rock, doesn't address any of that stuff, so I don't know how that's going to work out in the future. Am I correct?
Yeah, a little bit, sorry.
And-
Enforcement diligent
You're
development.
welcome to correct me too, is like I said. it's been
So
years
it
since I've
does,
seen
it does mention maintenance. It is an easement with the city of Norwalk. Currently, I believe the veterans group here in Norwalk maintains it and takes care of it, mows it. They do all the landscaping. But technically the easements with city of Norwalk for public access, for public maintenance, for the rock itself and for parking.
so who owns it?
Uh,
When this is done. who owns the rock?
Technically you guys, I believe the county gifts it, but I believe it's technically on city easement.
Okay. Right, I didn't know.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure that I'd want to read it just to make sure, because I don't remember the city taking on an obligation like to maintain. I think one question we would have if there's maintenance issues, like, okay, are we sharing the maintenance of the parking lot? I don't remember it. I guess,
The parking lot is laid out in there, I believe, and I can send you the easement
Okay.
agreement. The rock is not ours though, and there's no maintenance with the rock, or the grounds, around the rock,
Yeah.
landscaping, stuff like that.
Well, I'm willing to do the first
And I
reading.
know the easements with city of Norwalk. But
I'm willing to do the first reading on that to give council opportunity to review it.
Yeah.
And perhaps have comment.
Second.
So I get that was.
If anybody asks for a motion. Yes. I had it.
So any other discussion or comments, questions, or public comment? So do you want to make the motion?
Oh, I'll make the motion.
All right,
She did.
Then I'll second.
all right. So motion by Meineke, seconded by Cool to approve first reading as presented. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Meineke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6I is public hearing regarding a zoning amendment to change 3089 North Avenue from R170 single family residential to C2 community commercial. So we'll open up public hearing at 7:04 PM. Council initiated a zoning change for the old Warrior Run Clubhouse. It's now gone through planning and zoning. This is related to the comp plan amendment. Luke.
This is the next step. It will create a C2 parcel on the outlined area in the staff report.
Lindsay, we received any oral or written comments?
We have not.
Anybody want to make public comment? Hearing none, we'll close public hearing at 7:04 PM. Item 6J is the first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning 3089 North Avenue from R170 single family residential to C2 community commercial. We just had public hearing on this item. Luke, do you have anything to add?
No.
Any discussion, questions from council?
Motion.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Meineke. Any further discussion or public comment? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6K. Public hearing to dispose of an interest in real property, a lease located at 2011 East 18th Street. So we'll open up public hearing at 7:05 PM. I'm gonna let Jim or Luke explain this one. What's the point?
We came back some time ago, we talked about an amount within a lease. As you know, that we have agreement with Sportsplex, Mullets, Heartland, that collective agreement for what happens at the field house. So the key part in there at that point in time, actually a couple key points. One was the amount to be paid on that lease. And the other one were some kind of safety mechanisms. And then also the timing, making sure that if for some reason our agreement for who provides us concessions terminates, we wanted to make sure that this lease agreement also ended at that point in time as well. So Jim drafted that easement, sent it to them. And Jim, I don't believe they had any changes to your.
They did not have any changes. When they did, we got that feedback back from them. They're okay with it.
Yep.
It is in with directly with Mullets as opposed to the property owner. I felt that was the best way to do it. Do that was in your not contracting directly with the business owner, which I think the city has a little bit more control of. And if they change businesses, the city would also have control over, what's located there in the future.
I did get some feedback from Robin, apparently at a recent park commission meeting. Some other park commissioners were unhappy with the amount of the lease. So it might not be a bad idea for me to take some time and go to the park commission and explain to them some of the reasoning and rationale. Council determined that amount to be appropriate, just to get everybody on the same page. So
And I think also, during a public hearing and stuff, it's, it isn't bad to discuss that, but clearly the dollar amount itself on its face, you might argue is not fair market value because we're basically not charging anything for it. That being said, though, I mean, there's other consideration here also. The city spent millions of dollars in economic development incentives, partnering with private business, with private developers there to, cause success in the area. And certainly just because the cash payment isn't necessarily at a level where we thought if we put it up to the highest bidder, we might be able to get more cash out of it. But that being said, economic development is also a proper factor to consider. And I think certainly, contribution here is an unlike TIF or unlike, participating in expenses and costs. And, the benefit certainly is for economic development also. And I think that's part of the consideration.
Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
We have not.
Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll close public hearing at 7:08 PM. Item 6L, resolution to dispose of an interest in real property, a lease located at 2011 East 18th Street. So we just had a public hearing on this item. This resolution authorizes the city's execution of the lease agreement with Mullets. Jim or Luke, anything to add?
I guess the only thing I wouldn't mind having a little bit of amendment to the resolution, just having the city council find that we are receiving fair market value for this as a finding in the resolution. And that can be added after the vote.
Okay, any discussion?
And that's two
Questions?
That's to the effect that we know that 120 is obviously low compared to fair market value.
Well,
But
that,
we're doing it all encompassing with
Yeah,
every.
yeah,
every
that you,
consideration.
you feel you're receiving, because, we have an
Right.
obligation, the city council has a fiduciary obligation to the citizens in the city to receive fair market value for disposal of any property, whether it's a cabinet that we don't need anymore, or whether it's real estate, or whether it's a lease. And, like I said before, yeah, so I would like to have, as part of that resolution, just a finding that we are receiving fair market value.
And we're receiving income from that.
49,000 a year
Right.
for concessions.
There are other considerations that make it a fair agreement.
That's right.
Fair market value in consideration of the entire project.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay,
I can get
but-
behind that statement. Yes.
all right,
How about if we make that motion then?
I'll second that motion.
okay. As amended, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any public comment? Hearing none. Oh, it was a motion by Livingston, is seconded by Cool. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Items 6M. Resolution approving the final plat of Warrior Run Estates Plat 4. So this is going to establish the lot for the rezoned area at 3089 North Avenue. Luke.
Yep, so this is the subdivision that creates the lot related to the other two items we talked about earlier. We can proceed with this as a final plat due to there not being infrastructure needed to be constructed in relation to the split. So everything's on the up and up on that side. One thing I would note that we discovered kind of late in the game to get updated for the council packet is our current parkland agreement with Warrior Run Estates mentions that they will dedicate their parkland area in the residential neighborhood with plat 4. We did that because our understanding of the sequencing of plats was plat 3 was residential plat 4 was the next residential plat, and we would get the park with that next residential one. Circumstances being that this project came forward and we need to do this subdivision. We didn't think through the numbering when we were reviewing it. Lindsay caught it yesterday, and to save her sanity, we would request that when you motion to approve it, you motion to change the name from Warrior Run Estates Plat 4 to Warrior Run Estates Clubhouse Plat 1. And that'll keep our agreement still going fine and clear up any future confusion with our admin of things.
Good catch, Lindsay.
All right. Discussion, comments, questions from council? Or any public comment?
Motion.
For the Warrior Run Estates Clubhouse Plat 1.
Yes.
Plat 1, yes, ma'am.
All right. So motion by Cool, like here, George,
Second, yes.
seconded by Minneke. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston, Minneke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6N. Wow, it took a long time, didn't it? It's a resolution approving the site plan of Nutrisport Nutrition. So this site is east on Chatham and across from the new library site. Luke.
That is correct. It is actually kind of adjacent from the new library site. This site will include the extension of East 18th North as part of their platting. And then the lot that is created here will be the site for the Nutrisport Nutrition building. You can see in the site plan there, its layout with it fronted closer to Chatham. They've got a nice patio out front there. The parking lot kind of situated back in behind the use. Two things of note with it that are unique to this. The zoning for this area required a special use permit from the Board of Adjustment for a drive-through. So they went to Board of Adjustment and acquired that special use permit. The drive-through they're showing come off of the East 18th stub. So the way you'll access the site is drive in off of East 18th, adjacent to the building there, pick up whatever you're ordering, and then leave out through the north of that drive. So that's how that will work. The parking lot itself has 44 parking stalls. The site requires 37 for the use. There are an additional 7 on-street angled parking stalls on East 18th that are proposed. Those would be additional on-street parking for not only this use, but eventually the entire development. If you remember when we did the zoning, the larger parcel to the east of this is also zoned as town center commercial like the rest of Norwalk Central. So we would anticipate other kind of street fronted commercial opportunities there as that builds out as well. So that's the idea with the parking on the west side for now. You can see it ghosted in on the east side. That would be likely built with a new user on the east side, so not necessarily germane to the site plan. Happy to take any questions.
So what we're seeing, this building is the entirety of their business, right? Their business will take up this whole building. that we're
Yes,
seeing.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. It is not a multi-tenant building. It
Okay.
is. They're a single building. They do have kind of 2 separate uses there where they'll do the NutriSport smoothie side of things. And then they do have their nutrition supplement business that they have some warehousing out of the west side of that building. And if you look at the elevations, you can kind of see the parking lot side and what that looks like, and you know, just how that all interfaces on the kind of more warehouse side of it. So.
Other questions? Any public comment? Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Livingston, seconded by Meineke. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Meineke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6O is second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 155 building code to adopt the 2021 International Building Code with amendments. So we passed first reading of this ordinance change at our last meeting. It's just updating our building code. Luke, anything to add?
No, sir.
All right, any discussion, questions, from council?
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
motion by Livingston, seconded by Meineke for the second reading. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Livingston.
Yes.
Meineke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6P. The second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 159 fire code to adopt the 2021 International Fire Code with amendments. So we passed the first reading of this ordinance change at our last meeting. It's updating another portion of the building code. Luke or Chief Porter, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Okay, any questions, comments from council?
Motion.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
And motion by Livingston, seconded by Meineke for the second reading. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Meineke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6Q is a second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 69 parking regulations to identify new locations of angled parking within the city. Passed first reading of this ordinance change at our last meeting, updating parking regulations. We had a message come in today about this particular change to the ordinance. This is just like if we had stop signs and we add them and codify them later, where those locations are. This is the same thing as far as angled parking goes. So, Luke, you got anything to add?
No.
Any discussion, questions from council?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Meineke. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Meineke.
Yes.
Thought you'd say that. All right. Okay, so for the next few items, we're just updating other components of the building code. Luke, let's cover them all and then we'll quickly go through the first readings. Can we do that?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So really, it's the other minor components of the building code, just something to realize with building code is the big building code is one chapter, but then we also have chapters for plumbing, mechanical, electrical. And so these are just more minor amendments to update, to adopt the newest version of those. We're just keeping mainly the changes that we had in the last cycle. We're just redoing those. There wasn't a whole lot of recommendations from the CICC group on these. One thing I did want to point out from discussion earlier today was on the swimming pool and spa code. We do have a requirement for a fence around a pool. That does not exist within the swimming pool and spa code. That is a zoning code requirement. So
go ahead and delete the portion that says, in lieu of.
we
in
certainly,
lieu of that.
we certainly could.
That way it'd make sure it would be clear.
If that was council's desire, that's fine. I simply left it in there as it was with the last code, and the thought being that if we wanted to revisit it, it's easier to change one code section than two, but I don't have an opinion one way or the other.
2 swimming pools without fences. It says in this building code that you could, we went through and changed that. Well, we changed the zoning. Now that we're changing the actual thing, it says in lieu of a barrier, if you have such and such a secure top, you don't need the fence. And it wasn't very safe.
So
We went through and changed that once.
Yeah.
We did.
So we're just gonna make it unclear again. If you, depending on which part of the ordinance you read, you would think, oh, well, this is clear, I don't need it. I'm just trying to figure it out.
So we want to delete the in lieu of language for
I would like
for
that.
fences.
Yeah, if you have a secure cover, type ATM 3649, you don't need a fence.
Well, can I ask you to vote on it without that amendment today? So we have a first reading
Yeah,
as is. So
absolutely.
Luke and I can evaluate that wording more clearly.
And they do.
With an answer for you.
I apologize, Brian, I didn't read that code until just now, and we were chatting about it. One thing I would note is that it says, I think this is where you were talking about, it says where spas or hot tubs are equipped with a lockable safety cover complying with that section, those areas shall not be required to comply with the fencing requirements that would normally be there. So I don't believe it's intended to be pools. I think we've taken pools out of that. So we will look in that and clarify.
I
Yep.
agree. It should be able to block that.
Okay, so for tonight, for that particular,
That's fine.
for that particular reading, we're gonna
Keep it as is.
keep as is, and then you're gonna.
We'll come back with an opinion and
Look at
I
it.
think we can
Yeah.
change the wording without affecting it.
All right.
So as is, we're requiring a fence around a pool.
Yes.
Yeah, the goal is to have a fence.
Anything else, Luke?
No.
Okay. So are we ready?
Ready.
Item 8R. First reading of an ordinance amending chapter 154 existing building code by adopting the international existing building code with amendments. Any discussion from council?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Minneke for the first reading. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 6S, first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 156 plumbing code by adopting the state plumbing code with amendments. Any discussion or question from council?
Motion.
Second, I get
Motion by-
excited about plumbing.
Okay, motion by Livingston, seconded by an excited Ed Cool. For first reading. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right, motion carries. Item 6T. It's first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 157 mechanical code by adopting the state mechanical code with amendments. Any discussion or questions, comments?
motion,
Second.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Minneke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Cool.
yeah,
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6U, first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 158 electrical code by adopting the National Electrical Code NFPA 70. Any discussion or question with council?
Motion.
Second.
Has anyone actually looked at these? Just curious.
Yes.
I have.
I was hoping someone answered
Yeah.
affirmative. It's like I can't be the only one up late at night reading.
Okay, so I think that was a motion from Livingston and a seconded by Meineke. Nope.
Cool.
Cool, sorry.
Yep, it's all right.
I knew it came from that way. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston, Minneke.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6V, first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 161 fuel gas code by adopting the international fuel gas code with amendments. Any discussion, questions from council?
I'll make that motion. I think the international fuel gas code is important.
Okay,
Second.
all right, motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Getting a little punchy. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6W, first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 169 rental housing code by adopting the international property maintenance code with amendments. Any discussion, questions from council?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Livingston, seconded by Minneke. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6X, first reading of an ordinance amending chapter 172 swimming pool and spa code by adopting the international swimming pool and spa code with amendments. And we're going to add in that we are going to have Jim and Luke look into pool filter, right?
Yes, for the second reading, we'll consider amending that at the
Alright.
second reading.
All right, any discussion, question from council?
Motion?
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Minneke. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Whew. Item 7, future agenda items. So the purpose for this is for council to give direction to staff by way of a motion to have items placed on future agendas. This is not for discussion of the merits of the subject matter. It's just to get it on to an agenda so that we can discuss the merits of the subject matter. Anybody have anything?
I do. So a while ago, we've toured new mixed use developments. We've had discussions. A while ago, we discussed the possibility of some trees in our right of ways and how we could maybe accomplish that look. And then recently, Elliot in his What is Elliot Reading sent something out. Elliot and I had some further discussions. And I said, I'd like to, in fact, have an actual discussion about that. And the possibility in some of our newer developments, moving our infrastructure under the sidewalk instead of under the parkways, so that we could in fact have some nice tree-lined streets. So I'd like to bring that. I'd like to have that as a discussion.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second that. I think that sounds like a great idea.
So motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. All those in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. All right, we'll get that on street trees.
Street
I like it.
trees.
Any other thing? Anything else? For future agenda. All right, moving on. Council inquiries and staff updates, goals update. Luke.
Yes, it's coming up here shortly. The main thing to view here are all the check marks. Mission accomplished on a lot of these Vision 2028 items. And just reminding council that the fact that we have achieved what we did, I'm not saying it's up on perfect on everything. The one I'd bring up specifically is at the bottom, the 30% commercial tax revenue. However, as we've explained and you've heard in several situations, our next step in annexation heading westward includes a tremendous amount of light industrial and commercial property that will make a huge step forward in helping us achieve that 30%. The mixed use development, it's interesting that Jackie just brought that up, that item in the upper left-hand corner. We continue to have conversations. Luke and I, we've met with several different developers on the concept. We're still trying to keep that alive. It's just a unique type of development. So sometimes you've got to find a unique developer willing to take that on. We continue to work on that. So overall, very impressive, I believe, what our city has accomplished.
Awesome. Any questions? Cool. And I'm gonna ask you this question now. So that was 2028. That was 6 years ago. We did that.
We did do another update, goal setting with
Yes.
member Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. What's our next one?
So that-
When?
We are finishing up the community survey report. As you know, the census, they'd be finishing up. But the community survey that took place, that final report should be coming just in time for us to do our goal setting coming up in
November 19th.
November 19th. Thanks, Lindsay. There. So that'll be a chance to completely review and establish your new vision.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
On how we're gonna spend all that from the census, 10,000 or 10,000 people. Gonna be a nightmare.
We'll see. I'll get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Jim.
Reading the monument easement, Mr. Portson was really quick in responding to that, so I'm gonna glance into, so just FYI. It is a easement granted over the parking lot. Maintenance requirements of the parking lot are on the property owner. It is granted to Norwalk Hometown Pride in the city of Norwalk, so it's a public easement. So people have the right to use the parking lot for ingress, egress parking to get into the monument there. Whoever owns the property has to maintain the parking lot. The rock area where the actual Veterans Memorial is, that is a maintenance obligation of the city and of Norwalk Hometown Pride. And I don't know if the Veterans Group are doing that now, but it actually says in there that the city also would take responsibility for making sure that's well maintained. There is a right to relocation by the property owner. So if the property owner wants to spend all the money to try to relocate it to another acceptable location someday in the future, that property owner can do that. It doesn't mean they can get rid of it. It means they can relocate it to another acceptable location. And I believe Diligent at the time wanted they didn't know what's gonna happen to the property there. And they wanted to make sure that it wasn't, something that prevented them from the development that they wanted. So
we don't own the ground under the rock.
we don't own the grounds under the rock, no, but yes. But the easement allows for it, but maintenance of the ground around the rock and the memorial itself, the agreement does say that Norwalk Hometown Pride and Norwalk will maintain that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brian. George.
Just with the mayor, went out, viewed the Moffett Reservoir Water Plant, was pretty fascinating yesterday. It was a nice day to do it. So pretty amazing. Appreciate your water. You should.
Yeah. Thanks. Ed.
Well, we had a waste management board meeting and it was pretty much inconsequential. There were no earth shattering things there. We put off making a decision or setting a policy on emergency operations and refuge that comes to us via the state of Iowa as a result of natural disasters and like that. But at some point, we'll have to make a decision on how we're going to install that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Luke.
Nuisances, pretty standard property maintenance things this fall, so dealing with those. Permit wise, 15 building residential permits in August. That keeps us on track with kind of our average year, and sitting at 154 right now for the year to date. And then on the commercial side, I'm sure everyone's aware that Quickstar's open. So that's been quite popular, I've seen. And Fairfield also passed their inspections and is open as well. So excited to get those going and continuing to work on the permits and inspections for all the other commercial uses we got going on in the area.
Awesome. Thank you. Tony.
Nothing else.
Hey, Carrie. Oh, Carrie's not on it. She just dropped.
Oh.
She was on just a second ago.
She had to take her son. So.
Okay. All right, Wayne.
The Golden Valley Drive project is wrapping up. They're doing seeding this week. Next week will be mailboxes and stop signs. And then that'll be coming back forward to council for final assessments and acceptance.
Cool, great. Thanks, Chief.
Last week, the fire department participated in the triennial airport exercise at the Des Moines International Airport. That's an exercise that is required by the FAA every 3 years. This year, it was live fire, an aircraft live fire simulation, along with MCI, which is a mass casualty incident, where we went out and triaged patients, both fake and real people. So we participated alongside of a lot of different agencies, but primarily at the Des Moines Fire Department and the airport fire. In addition to that, then crews got to go out the day before, and our crews got hands-on live fire training with the aircraft simulator, fire simulator. So that was something that we had not participated in before.
Good.
And I think it was a real eye-opener for our crews because with how close we are to the airport, if we had an aircraft go down, it would likely be in our territory and we would be on the ground helping mitigate that incident. So we were really fortunate to be able to participate this year.
And they better
Very
be,
good.
they better be out here with their foam trucks too, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chief.
First of all, I didn't realize that the fire department uses the term live fire, like, because I thought they were shooting at each other. Because we use that term too.
Connotation there.
On the 29th of August, the DEA did a press release about a gang of narcotic sellers from Houston that they took down that participated in a nationwide pharmacy burglary ring where they stole narcotics, took them back to Texas, sold them. The interesting thing about that is about 18 months ago or so, the Medicap here in town was broken into and a bunch of narcotics were stolen out of it. We had some good video of the suspect. He didn't look familiar to anybody. Because of the large amount of narcotics, we contacted the DEA and we were told at the time that they were working on this conspiracy where these rural small town burglar pharmacies were getting broken into. Well, with the help of Norwalk, Investigator Howler, and the video that we obtained from our burglary, the DEA was able to plug in a missing piece of the puzzle. And the ending result is 40 people across the country, burglaries on pharmacies all over the country were solved, and multiple indictments. And it was just really neat, not that our pharmacy got broken into, but our pharmacy got broken into by a gang of criminals out of Texas, and that we had a hand in being able to put the final piece in the puzzle to get the DEA to be able to solve it all. Cool. And then the other really interesting thing about it is the guy that broke into our pharmacy was on pretrial release for murder from Houston, wearing his ankle bracelet. How he managed to make it here and back without anybody knowing it, I'm not sure, but somehow he did.
Wow.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our investigator won't have to go down to Texas to testify or anything.
No, I don't think so.
Good.
So that's all I have.
Cannot overstate
That's something.
the value of video. I cannot overstate.
Yes.
Very helpful.
So
It
please
is.
remember that when I come to you saying that body cam.
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
It doesn't say much about the leg ankle bracelets.
No.
Right.
So they're right, you have to actually look at the reports. I mean, somebody has to go in and look at, it's not like an alarm goes off. You just get a printout report and somebody has to go look at the report and say, oh, that's where they
1,500
are.
miles away.
Right, but you can verify that he was in fact 1,500 miles away when the time comes.
With the technology we have, you should be able to geofence that thing. So if it goes more than 20 miles away,
You should,
it should alert.
I suppose,
I-
but when you're supervising, 600 guys who are on GPS.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Lots of red flags.
Anyway.
The computer should do
One
that.
thing I learned about Houston, Texas, and the county, I forget the name of it, that's around Houston, is that the crime there is bad enough that they have the most people on death row That's their jurisdiction has the most people on death row than any jurisdiction in the country. The second leading jurisdiction with a number of people on death row is the rest of the state of Texas.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
Wow.
Is it just because other states don't have death row?
Well, it could be. It's also just a reflection of
Right.
what actually happens down
I
there.
need to start
Right.
executing a few of them.
Exactly, then they wouldn't have somebody on the list.
Exactly. All right.
Perhaps we should stop this discussion. on Recorded open mics.
Yes, so Chris.
September is a busy month at the library. We were a little quieter last month after a busy summer reading program. September is National Library Card Sign Up Month, so Luke is sharing a couple of pictures on my behalf. These two Norwalk kiddos got their first library cards today, and the one is holding the giant version of our library card, and the little one looks particularly devilish about getting her picture taken. So I'm sure that they were very well-behaved children in the library. We also have this other picture of this
I love it.
celebrity who got his library card, and we're very proud of him, so way to go.
They didn't even make me have two forms of ID this day.
Right. This time. There will be some other folks in this room who will be featured on our social media as well, because they've come in and got their new library cards or got a library card renewal. So thank you for that. Also, I did want to mention that in this month, we also started our Scribbles Challenge, which is 1,000 books before kindergarten program. It is designed very easy because parents have enough to do. And so they come in, get a simple tracker folder, and it's for children ages birth on up through not yet entered kindergarten. And Scribbles, our mascot, is challenging the kiddos to read or have read to them 1,000 books. They do earn incentives along the way. We have an assortment of different books that they can choose from for their own home library. They also can get a little book bag for their library visits. And at the end, when they get 1,000, they get a certificate and a little tiny Scribbles that can be their reading buddy. We started rolling this out on Thursday. We've already had 32 signups, so we're really super proud that parents are getting on board with their children. It just really sets them up to start some great learning habits. And we're very grateful to the Norwalk Rotary Club for sponsoring our seed money to do this. So if you have any littles in your life who need to come on over, they can get their library card and get started in the Scribbles Challenge.
Very cool.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Lindsay.
Okay, Carrie did have to jump off. She wanted me to remind everybody about the tailgate event tomorrow at 11 a.m. at the Field House for all employees, council, everybody's welcome. It'll be from 11 to 1. I think they're grilling burgers and hot dogs.
Field house?
Yes, at the Field House. Yep.
Right.
I'll just give a quick update on annexation. We had our last of who we will have signed papers in today. So we have 95.67% signed annexation agreements, which ultimately boils down to all but one landowner. I find annexation agreements. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Luke.
I do have a few items. First, appreciation for council. I know those are tough discussions, especially when you live in the neighborhood. Brian certainly recognized. I will tell you that it's not all negative. I've had residents actually stop into my office and compliment city staff, specifically Wayne, complimented council, folks that live out there that realize these are tough decisions. They see the value in what you're doing. So little pat on the back. Sometimes I think that's helpful. Second thing, tax credit grant that Hubble went after. If you can recall, they asked us to take some action that helped them along. They were awarded that grant. So kudos to them. Earlier this week, I had a meeting with one of the leadership on the Senate side, on the majority party, just to ask a few questions. It was interesting. We started off the meeting and she said, well, let us know, if there's anything you want us to do, we'll try and do our best. And I said, that's not the purpose of the meeting. I said, I would rather learn more from you on what your goals are going to be for the next legislative session, trying to understand if there's anything we can do to help. And it was a good, productive discussion. And the main thing I heard was, we love it when cities come forward with ideas and solutions just like we enjoy that from people, as opposed to just showing up and saying, what you're doing is wrong. So that was helpful. I enjoyed the conversation. Also heads up, if anybody wants to tour the construction crew tried to do a good job of cleaning things up in the midst. But if you want to go in any of the offices and see what they're tearing up, you're welcome to do that. And the last thing I'll bring up is a kudos to Carrie. She helps plan some of our citywide training. We just went through a topic that we all really enjoy. It's called harassment training. That was a mandatory for all of our staff. I certainly learned a lot. Sometimes you think you know all about a particular subject and you learn even more. She had an attorney from Allers and Cooney come in that also often works on those HR cases, and that's who did the training. So thanks to Carrie for getting that set up.
The nice thing about that is you get court opinions once in a while, so it changes everything.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's it. All right, thank you. To piggyback on to what Lindsay said about the annexation, we've met with the Board of Supervisors. We've met with Cummings City Council. Both those meetings went very well. Both are going to be considering resolutions of support in the next few weeks. And we're going to meet with Marchdale St. Mary's School Board on September the 16th. But overall, we are full speed ahead. One other thing, community chat will be in here on September the 19th, 9 a.m. right here in Chambers. So we do not need number 9 because we tabled our item for the road reconstruction project. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We're adjourned at 7:46 p.m.